And so, the end is near. And now we face the final scandal. Regrets. She's got a few. Well, around 650,000 to be more accurate. That's roughly the number of emails currently being sifted through by agents of the FBI. The rush to hero worship former Secretary Clinton seems justified when you take a close look at her opponent, Donald Trump, although reportedly not too close if you happen to be female. But excited commentators clamouring to get the first woman over the threshold of the White House. And yes, June, I am looking at you. Ignore a lurid past of alleged dodgy dealings, duplicity, and even blackmail. Even the supposedly cherished Clinton Foundation does not escape unscathed. Questions over cash for jobs and undue influence abound. I'm not here to pump up the Trumpster, rather to remind everyone that when it comes to scandals, Hillary can already lay claim to being the First Lady.
Well, start with the emails. We'll talk about the foundation, I'm sure, later on in the discussion. But in terms of the emails, I don't necessarily see evidence to say that she's done anything wrong.
There is none.
You're right.
You know, and she's been sort of fair in terms of transparent, in terms of giving over more than half of those emails that relate to official business.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously there's been a second round of that.
She admits she was careless.
Absolutely,
and I wanton with nation security over that. Yeah, you don't have a problem with that.
Well, I'd be far more concerned if she'd put up a wall and said, "I'm not going to give you any of that information." Excuse the pun. I'm not going to give you any of that information.
Well, she could. They just subpoenaed her. That would have been even more ugly. There comes a point where you just got to think, well, do I really want to be dragged in front? Now, let me say here and now, because I know what you're going to come in. This is not like a pledge for everyone to try and vote for Donald Trump. I am not saying that. I am just saying, be aware of the person who seems to be on the threshold. And most of you Liberal commentators, yes, most of you Liberal commentators cheering, you seem to totally ignore the fact that this campaign will end as it began, with this woman facing an FBI inquiry into her dealings. And she could be the first woman to go into the White House with an FBI inquiry hanging over. And that's first president, I should say.
That was not happening.
Yeah,
Nick.
Oh, you know,
You
do
can't
you?
wait for Donald Trump to be president.
No,
I know it's going to be great for your show. It'll be great for us on this show. But it's a
Actually,
joke. I mean, the
fantastic.
idea...
Yeah,
I'm going to shock you now because... Somebody called Salman Rushdie summed this up, I think, very well. And I'm going to take the liberty of reading it out on air.
Go ahead.
He wrote, so to recap, Trump will go on trial in November accused of racketeering and again in December accused of child rape. Yeah. He is a sexual predator, hasn't released his tax returns, has used his foundation's money to pay his legal fees. He has abused the family of a war hero. And, actually, let's talk about some emails. Hillary didn't send from someone else's computer that weren't a crime anyway, because that's how to choose a president. Come on, America, focus. So hold on, Nick.
Yeah.
We're not just being liberal about this. There was a poll in America which said if you had to have Hillary as president or Trump as president, would you like to have the whole planet obliterated by a meteorite? 30% of respondents said they'd prefer the planet to be obliterated by a meteorite, so they got a bad choice.
Got to get a word in here. Salman Rushdie, very learned man and a writer. He's wrong. He's not going on trial. This is a pre-trial hearing. I'm merely trying to point out that if you look through Clinton, we'll come to the foundation. Can I put the case for the prosecution one more minute?
Yes, I want to know what your problem is.
One
Tell us.
more minute. This woman, if you allow for Emailgate, Filegate...
It's not a gate.
It's Filegate.
Filegate is where the files of women who accused Bill Clinton of various sexual practices were then looked at by the tax revenue, by the IRS. So their files were invaded.
I don't know about that.
Chinagate.
What's Chinagate?
Chinagate, there was money from China that helped fund the 1996 re-election campaign. Travelgate, where seven people...
Nonsense.
These are what are called facts. More gates than the Archers. 7 people were fired from the travel office so they could be placed with cronies from the Icon Store. I've not even mentioned Whitewater, the Little Rock Bank, and the last one, 1996. She told everybody when she arrived in Bosnia they had to run.
Nick.
They had to run from fire, from enemy fire.
She has had a long career in
She was in fact was given children by flowers by an 8-year-old child. Case rests convicted.
Nick, if we're doing gates and lists, there's a fantastic... let me finish. There is a fantastic article in this week's Slate magazine.
Defend Hillary.
Let me finish. There is a fantastic article in this week's Slate magazine that everybody should read, which just talks about what both candidates have done. So, yes, in the Hillary Clinton column, we have poor email server management. We accept that. With The Trump column, where do I start? There are 200... No, but what I will say is the level of misogyny going on in this election is absolutely disgraceful. Hillary Clinton, without a doubt, is the most qualified person ever to run for president. I don't know what else you want. A woman who has given 30 years
Why is
to
the country
serve...
in such a state, then?
The country's not in such a state.
No, it is
not.
The country's going gangbusters.
The country is not in a state. The country is in one of the best places it's been in a long time.
Why do you keep talking about a new day and a new dawn, then?
Please,
Michelle.
See, for me,
Who else is as qualified as her?
Michelle.
I just think if I was an American, I would be absolutely gutted that actually, out of all of these millions and millions of people...
300 million, they come up with these two.
The best we've got is
She's not a bad candidate. This is absolute misogyny. She is not a bad candidate. If Hillary Clinton was a man with her background and all of the experience she's got, we would not even be having this conversation. Not Bill, nobody has ever been more qualified than her to run for president.
Okay. See, what I would say is, for me, and I do think when we talk about email-gate, I do feel a bit sorry for Hillary. I called her Hill then, as though she's my mate.
Hill.
I do feel quite sorry for her because there's so many different components of this email thing that's all been, and if you looked at them individually, you might be able to kind of argue that that one's not so bad, but they're bundled in and it's making it sound quite bad. But for me, it's broader than all of this. It's more of like a transparency and an honesty thing. I think that the whole campaign has just descended into ridiculousness.
Has not released his taxes.
Stop it now. We are talking about Clinton.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting you bring misogyny into this, June, because let's actually hear what women, the other side of that, what American women are saying about this.
They quite like her.
Her being a woman doesn't mean that she's qualified for the White House. It just doesn't.
Hillary is not the woman that we want. We want a woman president someday, but not this woman. This one just does not cut the cake in my book.
She's a joke. I don't like her. I like Donald Trump.
There we are. She's a joke, and that woman is going for
Well,
Trump.
number one, where did you find these women? Because
Took me a long
if you
time.
look, you worked hard.
I'm going this week.
I know you are. You worked really hard to find these women because she is totally annihilating him with women in terms of polling, like more than double.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, women do like Hillary Clinton. So I don't know where you got this from.
Are you telling me that you have no concerns over her past behaviour? Over the fact that she did lie about being hit with enemy fire in Bosnia in 1996 when she was actually given flowers by an 8-year-old child. She said, I misspoke.
This is someone who is...
No, stop.
Look,
stop.
OK, let me finish. Nobody is perfect. She is not a perfect candidate. But in terms of who do I feel safe having in the White House as somebody that I think will actually do a good job help steer the charity. I've worked with the Clinton Foundation. That is a fantastic charity, and no, they are not.
Why does Charity Navigator not give it a rating?
It does.
No, it doesn't, because of its atypical business model. Fact.
The point is, I think, is that there's
11 million people that charity has helped.
There's far more transparency, far more checks and balances than ever there were, and I think it's important that actually these situations do get properly sort of explained and challenged to prove that there wasn't anything illegal going on. I think that's absolutely vital. But at the same time, we live in a world where people are under so much scrutiny that if you run a dirty tricks campaign, as both of these candidates have against the opposition, you're going to expose things, and the perception of that is going to be that everybody's up to something dodgy and for personal interest. And that, I think, is a challenge for us, because then who do you trust?